So in my latest journal entry, it was yesterday, and in this journal entry, I'm talking about how it was just another dull day at the office. Just filled out some forms, sent some emails. Oh, scanned a form after about 100 attempts. The form kept getting jammed in the scanner. It was so annoying. And I also talk about the water pump outside. It's making a noise again, and apparently it's not supposed to do that, but it is, and it's confusing me. And it once woke me up in the dead of night. It was the worst thing in my life. And yeah, I remember that moment. It was really traumatic. That water pump just goes on and off, and I don't even know what the point of it is. But I did look at it, and there was like this off switch, and I was really tempted to click it, but I didn't. But yeah, I feel like I should at least consider turning it off because it's obnoxious. So here I talk about how I heard a very disturbing story yesterday about the office needed to be cleaned uh, tomorrow, which is today. And yeah, I remember like waking up this morning and I was like, do I feel motivated to go clean the office? Because I know that the office needs to be cleaned, like the bathroom, the kitchen, and the office itself. But I wasn't feeling very motivated, so I just stayed home. And yeah, right now, still not feeling very motivated. Yeah, that was my latest journal entry. Now, I want to talk about journal entry from the 13th of March, 2025, Thursday. Oh yeah, here I talk about like like the money I lost in taxes. Like I was supposed to claim tax-free threshold on the zero accounting system, and I didn't. And it turns out that I lost way more money in taxes than necessary. But yeah, I just talk about how I'm grateful that I made that mistake because now I'm a better man, and now I know to claim the tax-free threshold, so I don't pay more taxes than I have to because the government gets enough money, and they really think that they own us, but they don't. I'm talking about, but I need to just allow myself to feel the pain, for that is the only way I'll learn from my mistakes. So I also talk about, I also talk about how I finished watching The Big Bang Theory. As I was talking about, I had to give it a proper Viking farewell, putting it in a coffin out in sea and lighting it up with a flaming arrow. So this is a reference to something in The Big Bang Theory where I don't know, it was like Sheldon's like pursuing like a new branch of science, and he has to like give the old branch of science like a Viking farewell, putting it in a coffin and lighting it up in an arrow out in sea. And I talk about how finishing the series was a bittersweet moment for me. It was sad knowing it was over, but I found comfort in knowing there were still 7 seasons of Young Sheldon to watch. Oh yeah, so I've been watching Young Sheldon, and it's about like young Sheldon when he was like 9 years old. He's in high school with a bunch of these other guys who are like a lot different from him. Like they're much older than him, but they're a lot a lot more like social, and Sheldon's more like into books and not into making friends at all. He just has this friend named Tam, and he's just as awkward as him. So in my next journal entry, it's the 16th of March 2025 Sunday, and I'm talking about the night before. That was a Saturday. I'm talking about how it was a very long night. We went to the temple and visited our brother, and I was talking about how that's not a very good combination for a good night. Going to this long temple session and then ending it off with a visit to our brother who doesn't treat us very good. And I actually say some negative things here. I get the sinking feeling that one of us is going to have to become his carer. It's either that or him living on the streets, and I'm not cold hearted enough to let that happen, even though I dislike him. So, and I also talk about how my oldest brother seems pretty keen on moving out. He wants to buy a house for $65,000 in South Australia. And I talk about maybe he could give me that money and I'll build him a house. Pure genius. I'm about to get so rich. Yeah, so like if I got paid $65,000 to build someone a house, yeah, I could totally do that. I could like really maximize the value. And like of course I need to make a profit. So maybe I could hmm, maybe I could spend like 5,000 on materials and then get to work and then make a profit of like $60,000. If the cost is 5,000 and the house's worth is $65,000, then I'll be making a profit of $60,000. I just gotta put in the work. So yeah, $60,000. I will get so rich from that. And in this at this part, I'm really ambiguous about what happened, but I was kind of like exaggerating how bad it was. I was thinking about hopping out the window and living in the car, and about how living at home is becoming too much, and how like everyone seemed to want to create trouble. No one want to agree with each other. They just constant arguing. And I talk about how I how I learned from other people living in the car, you know. They were it's like not cheap, you know, your car gets damaged. Um, yeah, you gotta learn how to be like a car mechanic. You gotta be constantly fixing your car and be constantly like looking for a place to park the car overnight. And like that reminds me of like these uh, these laws in Australia, you know, against camping, you know. You need to be in like a designated camping area, and like that's not free. That costs money just to park your car overnight. That costs money to park your car in a designated camping area, you know, so it's not easy to live in the car. And I talk about like surviving the upcoming winter. You know, winter's coming, you know, it's Australia, it's March, winter's coming. It's not easy to live in the car during winter, like especially at night when the cold is like unbearable. Oh yeah, and here I'm talking about how nothing really compares to watching young Sheldon while on the exercise bike at the gym. I feel absolutely unstoppable. But I came home after 2 episodes for some lunch. Rice noodles with chalua. It was amazing. Yeah, so like I have been at the gym and I'm like on the exercise bike and like I'm watching young Sheldon while I'm on the exercise bike. You know, I got the charger plugged in and I'm just exercising, man, while watching shows on my phone. So here I'm talking about like the series that I finished, The Big Bang Theory. It's like everyone was against Sheldon because he cared more about his Nobel Prize than Leonard and Penny finding out they were pregnant. Yeah, so like in the last episode, Leonard and Penny finds out she's pregnant, and Sheldon finds out in the car, and actually it was in like the airplane on their way to like the Nobel Prize show, and like Penny's like showing like signs of sickness, you know, she's like sneezing and everything, and Sheldon's like, oh, she probably got like some disease, some viral disease that I'm gonna catch. And so Sheldon's freaking out. But then Leonard tells Sheldon that Penny's pregnant and that's why she's showing these signs and symptoms of like a sickness. It's just morning sickness or something. So like Sheldon's like really unsympathetic of Sheldon's just relieved that there's not a viral disease going around in the airplane. And like he doesn't even care that Leonard and Penny are gonna be parents. But Sheldon redeems himself during his speech, congratulating Leonard and Penny and even sharing the glory of the Nobel Prize with his friends, saying it was all thanks to their support. So yeah, Sheldon gets his redemption in the end. He's like this narcissistic, egotistical guy who like is very narrow-minded and thinks his opinion is like so much better than everyone else's, and he gets redemption in the end where he acknowledges that he never would have gotten this Nobel Prize if it wasn't for the friends supporting him. And so here I'm talking about my book. In my book, we find out Jay wants to marry Cassidy in the next week just to become an American citizen so he doesn't get deported. So I want to talk about this book. Like, we introduce a new character, Jay, and Jay wants to join Eric and Cassidy on their movie nights. They're reacting to movies and posting it on YouTube. And and like at first, Eric and Cassidy were just doing this for fun, but it turned into like a relationship. They were just two friends starting like this movie reaction channel, and it developed into like a relationship. And now in the second book, we introduce a new character who wants to join them, and we find out that Jay is like an Indian, and he wants to marry Cassidy to become an American citizen so he doesn't get deported back to India. But Eric won't let it happen. But Jay is determined to drive a wedge between them by accusing Eric of saying nasty things to him behind Cassidy's back. He's evil, but he won't get away with this. Eric will make sure. So yeah, at the end of this chapter, yeah, Jay's just playing victim, and he says that Eric's saying all these nasty things about him behind her back, just to get rid of him. And now Cassidy kind of doesn't like Eric anymore because of these lies that Jay's telling about him. And so Jay's plan is to like drive them apart and marry Cassidy within a week to become an American citizen. But Jay's not going to get away with this because Eric's going to make sure. So we need to keep reading to find out what Eric's going to do. To stop Jay from marrying Cassidy. And here I have some notes for Institute. Why does God remind people of their covenant relationship with Him? And some of the examples we had was that we're bound to Him and that He will lift and strengthen us. And He reminds us of our relationship to remind us of our divine identity, divine potential, astonishing insights, comfort, direction, and who we think we are motivates what we do. And so yeah, because of our relationship with God, we can become like the best version of ourselves, And here there's a question: what are the lesser things in your life that take too much time? And like the one guy answered, he was like, "Oh, work, man. Work is taking too much of my time, and like, at the end of the day, I want to just like forget work and start spreading spreading the gospel, but like even at the end of the day, he still has to keep working, until the shift is over." And he's like, "Oh, I've been doing this all day, I want to do something else. I want to share the gospel for like the last hour of my shift instead of talking about these contracts." And they're like, "Nope. While you're on this shift, you got to be working and you got to be talking with these customers about these contracts, and you aren't allowed to say anything about the gospel." And so like that's why he was talking about how work is like the lesser thing in life that takes too much of your time and stops you from being a missionary of Jesus Christ. And so the moral of this video is do not let the lesser things in your life stop you from being a missionary of Jesus Christ. And that's all I got for the video. Goodbye.